Hello and welcome. This is Lisa Jones, and you are listening to the Exploring Death podcast. Hello and welcome to the Exploring Death podcast. I'm Lisa Jones, your host, and today I have Ned Matinnia with me. He has been sensitive since early in his life. During his teenage years, he questioned the purpose of living on Earth. Why? Many are suffering, and the traditional authorities of religion and science didn't have the answers that added up to the complete picture of the reality that he saw and felt. When he discovered near-death experiences, he discovered the answers he needed. Ned is a software engineer by day and a seeker the rest of the time. Since discovering near-death experiences, which he credits as saving his life, he has joined IANS, which is the International Association of Near-Death Studies, and served at many of their conferences as well as on their board of directors. He hosts the Near-Death Experiences Facebook group, which currently, as of this broadcast, has about 31,000 members. Wow, welcome, Ned.
Hi, Lisa.
Great to have you here. Wow, 31,000 members in a Facebook group. That is amazing. Congratulations.
Thanks. And something about it is like it's almost like a completely hands-off process, because I think when I started it, a very small, and I think just over time, just because people are interested in this whole topic and it's out there in the Today Show, as recently Nancy Rhines and Cherie. I can't pronounce her name, but was on there. And I think it's just over time, there's just interest, and it's almost like people are seeking answers and just finding it on their own. And so I love that.
Wow, that is great. Well, and again, take us back to, you talked about as a young, teenager that you really felt this angst about being here on Earth and really questioned the whole purpose of being here. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, and so as a kid, I was extremely sensitive, and I don't know, it's possible that I had an NDE as an infant, because I've talked to mediums who have asked me, or who have told me, your energy feels like someone who's had one. And I always would say, I don't remember one. And one of the mediums I talked to, actually, she kind of confirmed it, or she kind of added credence into that whole thing. And so
can I just say one real quick, because my whole body is tingling right now. When I get truth, when truth is spoken, my whole body just lights up. And so I just want to give you confirmation that I'm getting that same, I'm getting emotional just even thinking about it. So I want to confirm that for you as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, because it is emotional, because I think as a kid, I remember being afraid of people, afraid of adults, because I felt like there was so much unawareness in them. When adults drink and they act careless, and you see that as a kid and you're sensitive, you're like, this is kind of a scary place. I felt like I couldn't trust people, even my parents. I love them, but it's just, I felt like, perhaps it was that memory of the other realm where everything is perfect, or where people are so much in their heart that there is no a carelessness, or no, so much anger, and just how people are here on Earth. And it's common, it's, so I think as a kid, I picked up on all that, and I kind of curled up into a ball, to use a figure of speech on that. I remember, when friends of the family were over at the house, having a party or something, I would hide in the other room, or hide in the hallway. I was just afraid of people. And it kind of ended up in school that I was picked on. I was extremely sensitive, and I couldn't ever feel like I could stand up for or defend myself, and I could cry, or internally cry, even if I didn't express it, so easily. Like I just felt sensitive. That's the only word I can say. And so basically, through elementary school and then middle school, it got very bad. And I felt like I'm worthless. I felt like I wasn't a good athlete or popular, and I saw how people treated each other. And it just, every day was like a horror show in my emotions of what I was seeing in the world and around me, and how I felt like there was no um, up or positive a thing, that stood up for truth, or for kindness, or compassion. And so I had a lot of issues with that, with how people treat each other, how if there was a bully, but if they were popular, even the teachers would kind of laugh it off, and just everything kind of added up. And I thought about, why am I here on earth? Because I felt like, even though I had a family, I wasn't um, too close with them. I mean, I love them, and same, but I kind of, I've been told that I've had emotional abuse, and perhaps more uh, uh, from my father, and multiple intuitives and mediums have said that. I don't remember a lot. I might, have blanked it out, but it just ended up where I was like, why am I here? Like, I don't understand life on Earth, and it isn't adding up. So um, basically, it kind of led me on a search, because I felt like, well, okay, if I'm gonna leave this Earth, I want to at least check, that there isn't any answers or reason not to, because I love the science and technology and everything. And if you ask what the average scientist thinks, they will tell you that we're just an accident. There is no spirit. It's all just the brain and molecules interacting, and there isn't any purpose or anything or any afterlife. And so that's how I thought, just because that's what as a scientist, that's what I was ended up looking at, and and so I started looking at the religions, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, all of everything like that. And I got kind of interested, and it was kind of, I saw wisdom, which I really appreciated, because wisdom was something I felt something from the other side, or it's something pure, that isn't in our common, at least in our culture here, it's not often practiced out there in the world, or in the media, or in advertisements, like advertisements. You think about how often we are manipulated. Like, I'm aware of how often people are manipulated, and a lot of people, they don't even know what's going on. And when I see the reality behind all these facades, that is part of what kind of made me sick inside. Like, I needed, like, this whole thing was all backwards. So as I learned about the wisdom, and I learned about intuition, I learned about mediums and psychics. And so out of curiosity, I had a psychic reading, and I was just interested how it all worked, and if there was anything to it. And then over time, I heard about NDEs, near-death experiences, and I forget what the first NDE I heard was, but I remember a feeling of like, it finally was in the direction of the answers that I had been seeking. And I remember when I read Dr. Raymond Moody's his book, A Life After Life, and I remember when in some of the accounts it talked about, that all-powerful light, and the love and the energy from it. It kind of really started to heal me, because it's like, okay, well, if in this life on earth, it's difficult, and how people is so harsh on each other, and so much hypocrisy and judgment on each other, at least it looks like there is a higher power, and that's not like that at all. It has the truth and the kindness and everything that I was missing. Um, and then the more I read, and I learned, like a lot of NDEers talk about how everything is recorded. And I was actually just the other night watching Tricia Barker's her interview of Dr. Allison Snowden, who also said this about how everything is recorded, but it's not in a bad way, and it gave her comfort. And that's how I felt, when I heard about this, because it's like everything we do actually does matter. Like when you see people, how common it is that they'll just litter, and they'll throw their empty soda can on the sidewalk, and they'll just laugh it off. And how common it is to actually pick on people who are being kind, and pick on people who are trying. It's almost like in a lot of areas of our culture, being mean or very an ego is kind of promoted and congratulated. And it's like, I saw all of that in the world, and when I saw NDEs and the message of them, it was like, well, you see that there is a reason to try, even if it's not always popular, and it just helped a lot. So it's almost like ever since I started learning about them, reading about them, watching them on YouTube and at conferences, just like the IANS conference, which is the International Association for Near-Death Studies. It feels like home. It feels like, well, even if the world is sometimes crazy and chaotic, at least these people understand more. At least I feel a lot more comfortable, with their hearts. And so, yeah.
Wow, that is great. I'm just riveted by you talking about this. And when you say that everything is recorded, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think maybe some listeners might not understand, like, how is that? Like, what is that about?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, because as a scientist, or someone who has a scientific mind, who wants to understand how things work, I wonder about it too. Like, it's just interesting. But a lot of near-death experiences talk about how, that every single detail of their whole life, and even sometimes when they were in their mother's womb, everything is recorded. And I've heard, like, I think even Dr. Eben Alexander and other NDEers talk about how, we think that at the time of our physical death, and that our life is permanently over and it's gone forever. And yet what they say is that in these earth lives, nothing is ever lost. Everything is gained, which is interesting, because it's almost like every lifetime that we have here on earth, it's almost what they're saying is, it's like a piece of treasure, or something which we store, and we have in our collection of memories and of learning. And so, yeah, the whole thing about everything recorded, I guess, some people might find that uncomfortable, but I how I feel, and I think some other people feel, is that it gives a lot of comfort to know that even if we are struggling and we're trying hard, and there's people who are trying to oppose us or something, in that it's like everything matters, everything is and will be reviewed in the future, not in a punishment sense, but in that it simply matters.
Wow, that's powerful. And I think it's such a great reminder for everybody that everything we do has repercussions, that it's almost like, it's that pebble in the pond, that when you say something to anybody, it kind of ripples are sent out and you don't know even what the impact is to other people. But I've heard that as well with the NDEers who have had life reviews and have still come back, that they've seen everything they've done, the good, the bad, and everything. And not that it's, like you said, not that it's in a judgmental way that they're shown these life reviews, but it's just in a way to really have a much broader perspective of the impact that they made on Earth. I think that's kind of the gist of what I've gotten out of it. And then they act accordingly when they come back.
Well, yeah, and that's an interesting topic, of how it changes people. Like I know, like I hear a lot of people who had a life review will talk about how much they change afterwards, or how they never want to hurt anyone ever. And sometimes it's impossible, because even unintentionally we say something and we might hurt someone, but because misunderstandings are common on Earth, but even then it's the intention, and so at least the person isn't ever intentionally trying to hurt anyone. And so yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then also, I know you'd mentioned we'd spoken before that you really do believe that NDE saved your life. I mean, was there a point in your life that you seriously considered ending your life here on Earth, or were you still kind of searching before that?
I was almost there. I mean, I had never, I had never gotten as far as thinking about how exactly, but I kind of always I felt like, well, life on Earth is so painful that I always have it as a backup option. Like if I'm ever just like, all right, this is too much, I can just do that, and everything would be fine.
Right.
And so on the whole topic about NDEs, it's like when people try that, and have an NDE, the message is always, that isn't a good option, because it'll cause a lot of pain and suffering in the lives of our loved ones here on Earth, and because they often say that whatever issue we were trying to escape or avoid, we're going to have to go through that over again. So why not deal with it here, and ask for help from a higher power, even if there is no name on it, because it's what I love about NDEs is that the truth, it seems so universal. Different people have different styles or different vocabulary on it, but it's all really the same message, and so that is something that I just love about NDEs, because I feel like it's the key to humanity kind of moving forward, because we have science and religion, and and there are a lot of opinions out there and beliefs, but I feel like near-death experiences are one of the few things that kind of bridge that and unite that.
That's great. Wonderful. And I'm curious then, how did you get into computer programming? I mean, it seems, is that just something you're interested in, or what brought you to that?
Well, yeah, and that's a good question. I recalled even as a kid, my dad, he worked as an electrical engineer, and he had at home it's called Borland C, which is a programming language, and he had a book of it at home, and I forget how old I was, but kind of an older child at the time, and I saw it, and I thought that looks really interesting. And I opened it up and I saw code, like computer software code. And I was fascinated by it. And I thought, I'm almost curious. And it's interesting that, over time I came across things like astrology and things like that. And so being a Gemini who is naturally curious and always wanting to understand everything, it made sense. And so it's kind of like a hobby that ended up as a career too.
Wow, that is great. Wonderful. Well, listen, Ned, I do a reading. So are you ready for that?
Definitely.
Okay, let me pull some cards for you. Let's see what that higher power has to say. I know I'm still confused about what to even call that, but I know there's something greater than us here, and that's what's really exciting.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the first card is, it's usually the blockage card. So the one that I pulled for you is breakthrough. So what I'm getting there is that like you are on a breakthrough, like there's this big breakthrough coming, but that's, it's just been kind of holding back. And that, well, and then I'll just go into the next part because the action card is essence, and that's you being you. So the more that you can be you, the more that, like you shine forth to people. And I know, you're doing all sorts of fun things to get yourself out there. And, and I feel like this interview is one of those things that it was just so perfect that we actually met at the IANS conference, which was so funny. And I had no idea that you were, on the Facebook group that you run or anything. And then I just kind of came across you there. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to interview Ned. That was amazing. And then your outcome card is commitment. And so, and that can be, on both levels. I mean, I feel like this could be both your personal life as well as, your professional life, your commitment to following your passion and to, truly following who you are. And that's going to open doors and allow you to fully embrace your true passion in this life. So.
Well, and I appreciate that. And if there's anything I can add in that, like, how you mentioned with the first card of the breakthrough, how I've been holding back. And yeah, because I've had this year has been extremely hard on me emotionally, and I have felt almost like I don't have any value or worth. And so when you asked me, if I could be interviewed, I was nervous, and also I felt like I didn't have anything to offer. And so, like you said, this just kind of happened, and I appreciate it a lot because I feel and I've been told by other mediums that I need to get out more, and I've been holding it all in, so that's accurate.
Wow. And again, my whole body, I feel like I'm levitating off of my seat right now. That is such truth. And first of all, you are so valuable and you are so amazing. And, we need you on this earth to help show people that by connecting with, near-death experiences, and for those sensitive people that are out there, that this life doesn't make sense, that by researching and reading these books and listening to videos of NDEers, I mean, it can really change your life because you then know that there is this greater purpose for all of us here, and that we all, I believe, chose to come to earth to work through, our soul contracts and to expand ourselves and to really take us to that next level. So I'm super happy that you're here and that we crossed paths. And like you said, this totally was meant to be. I feel like it was a divine appointment. And so I'm thrilled that you said yes to the interview.
I love that.
Well, great. So is there any final things that comes to mind that you want to talk about, or?
Well, I just, I think like before the interview, I kind of meditated a little bit and prayed on what do I actually want to say here. And I guess it's just my whole passion is how important the little things are, the golden rule to putting ourselves in other people's shoes and holding off judgment. Like we see, if a person says or does something that we wouldn't ever do, even if we a part of us is like, ew, or that's horrible. It's just to hold off a little bit and try to find any empathy with that, because the whole thing that we talked about, how everything is recorded, it's that whole thing. If we hurt another, we hurt ourselves. And so I guess it's just, I feel so important in that message of compassion in NDEs.
That's beautiful. I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing that. And people can get a hold of you or can join your Facebook group on Facebook, and they just have to search near-death experiences, right? I mean, I think that's the name of it.
Yeah, and if they're entering it on the search bar in the browser, it's facebook.com/group or groups, I forget, and then /return from death. And I'm also on Facebook, and so if you're in the group, you'll see me, and you can add me, and yeah,
great.
So I'll be there.
And we'll have the links on my website as well, so people can just click on that too if they want more. So, well, Ned, thank you so much. This was so great, and I so appreciate you and your time and your message of compassion. I think that is absolutely beautiful, and thank you.
I'm honored. Thanks a lot, Lisa.
Okay, so thank you so much for listening, and until next time, aloha.
Thank you for listening to the Exploring Death podcast. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any financial or legal decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Exploring Death. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.